All right, all right, all right. Thank you so much for joining me again today. My name's Karl Krentzel, your host here today. Today, what we're going to talk about is actually completing the BPO on the property. Now, what we've done, as you've seen already, we've inspected the property, we've rekeyed the property, we've gone ahead and pulled some comparables so we can kind of get an idea of what we're working with. We know that the property interior has been redone. Now, this is a little bit of a different thing that I did not know about at the time that we first started going ahead and doing this BPO. Now, the broker price opinion from here is what the asset manager uses to determine the value of the property. Now, the asset manager themselves have not seen the property, and as such, she's not necessarily going to know exactly how much to ask for the property. So what they do is they go ahead and do what's called a broker price opinion. Now, what you're seeing right here is the form that I fill out. I've already gone ahead and sent all the photographs of the property to her. So as you can see, let me go ahead and, oops, I don't want to open that. Close that. There we go. As you can see, I've taken all these different photographs of the property, the pool, the spa, the pantry, the oven, the counters, the kitchen, etc. And I've gone ahead and sent that in a format to the asset manager. Now, I've gone ahead and looked up the multiple listing service and found all the different comparables that I'm going to use. 3 different actives and 3 different solds. Now, these solds, as you recall, were from the first of the year, and you can see that their prices are a lot different than what I was expecting. When I was expecting to list the property, I did not know that they were going to do any work to the property. It looks like they've gone ahead and they've done some work to the property. They've repainted it. They've done some work to it, apparently, from when it was currently listed. So it's no longer in the condition it was before. So what you can see from the bird's eye view is that average prices in that area for these properties is $710. The low is $595. The high price is $825. On average, homes are taking 101 days on the market. They take 91 days to sell, and the median sales price is $584,000. The highest of these comparables is $640, and the lowest is $570. So let's go ahead and compare the property that you saw me do as well as what we're dealing with here. So what we're dealing with is the BPO, the asset manager, who's the person in charge of this property, doesn't know anything about it. So I have to go ahead and tell them everything I can that will help them make a decision. So as you can see, the listings in the area, I let them know the price ranges, the average days it takes to close loans, how long it takes to sell homes, any competition they may have, what's the value. Now here's a curious factor. Now what I'm telling the asset manager is that the market currently is stable. Now it's my belief, okay, that it's actually depreciating. That's my belief. But I can't prove that just yet, and the stats don't necessarily show that. So just because I believe that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to mark that. I'm going to mark it as stable because that's what the stats show. My belief is that it's depreciating, but it's certainly not appreciating. So as we can see, it's a territorial home, 3,652 square feet, 9 total rooms, 4 bedrooms. It actually has a total of 5 rooms that you could use for bedrooms, but one of them isn't actually got a closet. So it's really a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath. The rent here, potentially $2,500. I mean, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. For our purposes, it's a 4-car garage with a 152,000 square foot lot. A 26-year-old home was on the market for 102 days. 689, it ultimately foreclosed at 449. The condition is good. Now, I marked down that the condition is good because the pool needs work. The pool needs work. It needs some treatment there. It's a little getting a little cloudy and green. The yard itself needs some work. The air conditioning also I'm not 100% certain of. Now I'm going to let them know that, hey, I'm uncertain if the air conditioning is actually functional. Because as you recall, there was a couple pictures I had taken of the property where it looked like they'd taken the air conditioning away, but the condensers were still there. So I'm not certain if they're on the roof or something like that. Maybe they just had upgraded it and I didn't know. So that's something to definitely check. Now, the broker, the asset manager is going to want to know which sales we're talking about. Now, remember, they're going to have another agent come behind me. If they haven't done so already, they're going to have an appraiser come behind me, and they're going to do the same process I used yesterday, and they're going to pull up these same comparables, maybe one or two that's different, but I really don't think so, because these are pretty close. Now, what they're going to say is, what was the condition of the sale? This is important. Now, when you're trying to figure out the value of your home, you have to understand the value of concessions, because there are concessions that you're sometimes going to give. Now, even on a cash sale, as you could see on this particular property here on Kaid, what was it? Kaid something. Hang on a second. Kaid de Vaqueros, right? On the property here on Kaid de Vaqueros, you can see that they had actually sold that property with a VA loan, and they used $9,000 worth of concessions. Now, when you're getting a sales price of $584,000, but you have to pay $9,000 worth of concessions, well, then you know that your real value is not $584. It's $9,000 less. It's what, $573, I guess. Is that right? So in any event, when we're looking at the broker price opinion, this is an important factor to tell them, right? It's, oops, hold on. Sale number 3, Kai, did I have the right one? 1065 Kaid de Vaqueros. Hang on. Let's just make sure I didn't transpose the numbers wrong. Hang on, because sometimes that happens. 10675 Kaid del Val. Okay, there's the difference. Kaid de Vaqueros, Kaid del Val, right? Let's make sure I didn't mix them up. Kaid del Val is number 1. Yeah, there. Kaid Vaqueros is number 2. There we go. 3. There it is. Okay, so $9,000 in concessions, horse property, recently remodeled with an old floor plan VA financing. Let's make sure we put that in there, right? So that way they know, as well as right here, right, that it's actually a VA loan. And VA loans are going to be a little bit different. They're going to want to know which property is most like it. I say comparable number 2, the property on Melpomene Way, is most like the sales property we have right here. So this is the property that I am saying is most like the subject. Now, this property is in a little bit better condition, obviously, because it's currently was occupied, had some people taking care of it. But as you can see, the property itself is in roughly the same condition, roughly the same age, roughly the same size, roughly the same upgrades. This property is very, very, very similar to the one that we're trying to sell. And so this is the one that I tell the bank that we want to put the most weight on, which is comp number 2, Melpomene Way at $570,000. Okay. Now they want to know, what is it like as far as the listings are concerned. As far as listings are concerned, we want to know 3 active listings. So what we've done is we've gone ahead and searched for those 3 active listings, and we can see one of them now is actually active and contingent. And this means that they actually have a contract on the property and that they're now waiting to go ahead and go through the inspection period. Now, this right here will say wide loop, $825,000. Catalina is $595,000, and then the Longhorn property is $375,000, and it's currently contingent. We'll mark on here active contingent, right? So they know what they're dealing with. Okay, now, which property is most comparable? I said number 2, 11440 Catalina. All right, so let's take a look at the Catalina property and why I said it was most like this property. I say this property is most like the subject because of its style. Now, it's true the property is not the same age and it's not the same floor plan, it's not the same styling, and you can see it does not have the same upgrades. However, this home is on the market right now at $595,000. It is a good-looking property. It's certainly very comparable to the one we have, but they're on the market at $595,000. Now, Out of all the properties that I talked about, this is the one that is the most like it that is currently on the market. So what we have to figure out today is, what is this house worth relative to these other properties? And when we put it on the market, we want to try and get as much money possible for it, because obviously the lower we sell this property for, the more it's going to hurt the values in the neighborhood. Not to mention the fact that the bank won't make as much money. So what we're trying to do is figure out the highest possible price that the bank can get in the least amount of time. And we also have to let them know what we think about the property itself. So what kind of functional or economical obsolescence does the property have? Like, if the property had been defaced or debased in some way, the air conditioning had been completely taken out, the furnaces removed, copper wires stripped, things of that nature. Well, in this case, we've had remodeling. It has a large lot, a pool and a spa, and a featured separate shop. So it's in really good condition. Any positive or negative site location influences? If this was in South Tucson in a wharf area, a water quality area, then we would mention that. But here it is. This is in the Tanque Verde Valley. It's in a great little area of town, right? What kind of resale problems do I anticipate? Well, certainly COVID-19 has tightened all the lending restrictions for higher lending prices, property, and this can be a factor. Now, they're going to want to know what types of financing does it not qualify for and why. Well, at this moment, it doesn't really not qualify for anything. It qualifies for cash and conventional and VA financing because of its conditioning. The question is, what are they most likely going to use? Well, as we can clearly see, these sales right here, 2 out of the 3 sales have been through cash. So it's more likely, at least for this particular price range, that this home is going to sell in cash. So let's go ahead and say, well, what do they recommend as far as me to market the property? Well, I'm saying we need to aggressively price it on the multiple listing service. I mean, clearly, it doesn't matter how much advertising you do if the property is overpriced. Additionally, we want to make sure we do extensive internet marketing and marketing to the luxury agents in that area who are going to have the buyers for that particular property. Let's go ahead and take a look at page number 2 of what they're going to want to know. And again, this is so the asset manager will have a very clear idea of what they feel things are worth in that area. And again, I don't make the prices. Ultimately, the asset manager will make the price. They're going to take my opinion, they're going to take an appraiser, and they're also going to take another broker's opinion just to be certain about the price. For my opinion, they want to know, what do I think it's really worth value-wise? 90 to 120 days. I mean, if we were to try and sell this property in the next 4 months, how much do you suppose it's really worth? Well, initially on my first inspection, without actually looking at the interior and seeing the condition of the property or looking at the comparables, I was thinking the property was probably going to sell in the 400s. But in reality, after looking at the property and seeing the comparables and seeing what the market's like right there, I'm actually a lot more comfortable with a price of $550,000. Now, agreed, it is not exactly the same price as, say, Melpomene at $570. But I also know that agents who are going to look at my property and try to compare it are going to see Melpomene. And when they compare my property to this property is a little bit better. It's in a little bit better condition. And if the bank doesn't do any kind of real repair work, then it's probably not going to sell for much more than this property in particular. And this one sold at $570. But I also have to be aware of what's going to happen once it goes on the multiple listing service and how it's going to be perceived in the market. Now, this current property is on the market at $595,000. Now, I want to try and make my home the best looking property with the cheapest price. That's how this works, okay? And that's how banks think. They need to get the best price in the least amount of time. The best price for this particular property is to put it on the market less than the competition and have your home be in better shape. Now, I recognize the bank is probably not going to list it at $550,000, but that's my recommendation. That's my feeling is how much the home is going to sell for. If they were to go ahead and do the full repairs on the pool and de-weed the yard and the things I'm going to recommend, it's probably worth about $570. But I'm not certain about the air conditioning, and there is some debris that needs to be removed. The pool does need treatment. Now, the property itself, If we were to list it, I'm going to recommend they list it at $560,000. There's not much difference between the value of what I think the home is worth versus what I think the home should be on the market for. And the reason why is clear, because when you look at the multiple listing service, you can see that homes in this area are getting about 99% of the asking price. All right, so there's not a lot of dickering back and forth, and it's certainly not this 10% swings, right? So having the home on the market at $560,000 is going to give it full exposure to that 560 and above crowd, as well as the 560 and below crowd. And so that is certainly going to help. Now, as far as the estimated lot value, well, that's largely speculative, simply because you have a 3,000 something square foot home on a 3.5 acre lot. And I'm really not certain what the estimated land value would be if you tore the whole house down and you were to sell it. But if I look back on the tax records, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable, because the tax appraiser itself says that their home, they feel it's worth $562,000 in its current condition. So it's difficult for me to say what I would think that land is worth, but I'm just going to put in a number and look. You can hate me in the comments. I know already that a 3.5 acre piece of land in northwest Tucson, in that area, is not going to be worth this number. But again, I'm just kind of spitballing here. So for 3.5 acres worth of property, buildable land in Agua Caliente Park, I'm going to say it's worth about $90,000. Probably worth more. I mean, if there wasn't a house there, you know what? Tell you what, we'll just, not that it doesn't really matter, but we'll say 100,000, because that's probably more reflective of the actual value of the land. All right, so there's no homeowners association. We need to be aware of that, so we make sure that we pay them, so your homeowners association dues don't go broke. We want to talk about the things that they need to remove or do with the property, the repairs that I recommend. I want to recommend that they remove the external debris. The external debris, as you may recall, is the debris that was right there in a couple different places outside the house. Let me see if I've got a picture of it for you here. There we go. All right, so there's a couple debris piles that need to be removed across the property here. Here's one. There we go. We can kind of see that one, and we can kind of see that one, right? So you can kind of see that there is a little bit of debris that needs to be removed on the property itself. It's going to take a second to focus, apparently. There we go. Bam, right? So you can see that it's going to take a little bit of work there. There's also, I put down pool, spa, maintenance, and treatment, right? Certainly we want to make sure we keep an eye on this pool, because one of the concerns in Arizona, obviously, is pools and mosquitoes. One thing, obviously, these are dangerous, right? You want to make sure you treat these with chlorine so there's no mosquitoes. You want to make sure that the pool is secured so no children will go ahead and fall into the thing. So you certainly want to make sure that that's taken care of. External landscaping, removal of weeds, that's just basic weeds and stuff. And then, of course, checking of the air conditioning units. Okay, so now what we've done is we've gone ahead and completed the broker price opinion. I'm going to recommend that they list the home at $560,000. I feel it's worth about $550,000. But we're going to see what the asset manager says. We'll see what the appraiser comes back with. Unfortunately, I don't get a copy of that, but it would be interesting to see what that ultimately works out to be. So until next time, guys, that's how the BPO goes. Let's go ahead and press submit. You'll see it right there. And wham, now they got it. Okay, so they're going to go ahead and get this. And now they'll let me know what the listing price is. So until next time, I hope you have a powerful sales day. Bye-bye.